You're listening to This British Life podcast, conversations with interesting people.
Ayvianna, how are you? Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, well done.
Ayvianna Snow.
Yes, sir.
Is that your real name?
It's my name now.
Right, that's it. That's all I need to know. From Ireland.
Yes.
I'm half Irish. Whereabouts? Dublin?
No, Derry.
Oh, Derry.
Yeah, Northern Ireland.
Oh, Derry is in Northern Ireland.
It is, yes.
Oh, okay. When did you come over to England?
When I was, I think like a month after I turned 18, so I've been here a long time.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
usually
accent as well, you sound like.
No, usually, the Northern Irish accent usually
London.
sticks around. It usually holds on to people. So you've lost it in that time. And you lived there all your life? You didn't move around?
Not really. I mean, apart from sort of trips, because I was always doing acting even when I was a child.
Yeah.
So I went, like, for instance, I was in London for a few months doing a course with the Royal Central School. And then I used to go to Manchester occasionally. I had a job at the Contact Theatre and things like that.
Is that the speech school, the Royal?
Right, speech and drama, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I would come over to England and sort of do a job and then go back again. So there was a period of time where I was kind of going back and forth between the two countries, which is a bit of a... It's a weird thing with your mind. I don't know if you've ever done that, lived between two countries and two slightly different cultures, but it plays with your...
I knew a guy, and he said to me, well, there's two things I thought fascinating. He said, so he was trying to learn the language. I can't remember, I think it might have been German. So he was trying to learn German, and he wasn't used to it because he was like in his 40s when he tried to learn. So it's a bit harder because it's clunky. And he said, there was a moment when I was literally in an office and some people were talking, and I suddenly thought, oh, I can understand what they're saying now. He said, I was just, because sometimes you pick up on things. He said, I just suddenly realised I can basically hear everything they're saying now. And he said, it was weird to like,
it was a moment,
I'm not trying anymore.
Yeah.
And he said also, and I didn't even think about this, he said, it's not just the pattern of the speech and things. He said, people think differently. And he said, so
Absolutely.
the way they think's slightly different. So... he said English people, I can't remember what he said the difference was, but he said, yeah, it's not just the wording, it's the way they look at life affects the language and the way it's said.
Yeah,
and I thought,
culture,
oh God, you don't think
culture.
until you should think, well, it's people. You go, no, it just thinks differently. Like there was a guy, so I used to work with, South African guy, and he's telling me in South Africa, he said they're much more, it's not like England where everything's that to that minute and that date there. And he said, like the post, he said, there's no way of knowing when the post is going to be there.
Oh.
He said, if you really want something to be there, you sort of have to give them a couple of quid to say, look, can you just make sure tonight that guy definitely takes that letter?
Yeah.
He said, use this within sort of 3 to 5 days. He said, but no, the thing that you think you're used to, that, well, it's not there today, you said, and I'm not talking about like tracked or anything. He said it's much more relaxed. And you think, oh, you know it's different, but you just don't think, no, you've got to...
You don't realise until it's your home. Yeah.
I want to ask you quickly before we get to your career. What was it, speech and...
So I went to a few schools, the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you about. When they say speech and drama, what's the speech bit? What are they actually teaching you?
Well, I learned phonetics for 3 years
yeah.
when I was at drama school, which is with the sounds which make up speech.
Yeah.
And the idea is that if you understand the sounds which make up speech, you can then rearrange the sounds to speak in any accent or dialect you like.
That is it to do with accents?
Yes, precisely. Yeah. So, for instance, I'll try and give you an example. So, fire in RP has 3 sounds. It goes fire,
Yeah.
So if you're doing RP, you'd say fire, there's a fire.
Oh, right.
But someone with a different accent might only do 2 sounds. Fire.
Right.
It's like it's on fire, innit?
Yeah.
So if you understand that, then you can supposedly anyway...
oh, right, when you're trying to replicate.
Yeah, so if I wanted to replicate an accent, I could look at it and sort of use phonetics to work out...
I hadn't even thought about that. Say the RP one again, that was lovely.
Fire.
That's fantastic. That's
very
great.
well spoken, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was taught, they used to make me stand at the piano and go, stu, sto, store, star, stay, stee, lu, lo, law, la, lay, li. And I just did that every day for 3 years and came out sort of, you end up talking like a cross between a newsreader and the Queen.
Yeah,
sort of,
right, yeah. I wonder how, now do they teach less, I suppose more like Cockney? Can you teach that? I was thinking.
You can teach anything.
I know Guy Ritchie put it on a bit.
I think,
he went
she
to
was
like middle
pretty
class.
much there with that accent, I think.
Yeah, because Guy Ritchie, people thought he was working class, like a Cockney, but he's like his mum was like Chelsea equity.
A lot of people are pretending to be more.
It's a strange thing to do, though, isn't it?
I think a lot of people do that.
Who's the posh bloke in Parliament? What's his name?
Which one?
Something. Rees-Mogg. Yeah, because he put that. He learned that accent. That's not from where he's from. Yeah, that overly posh plum in your mouth.
Where is he from then?
I can't remember. I think it's like the West Country or something. But people said to him, like when he's at university, no, he made himself speak like because he wanted to be seen as a. I mean, it sort of works as well.
Exactly. I'm sure he's convincing a lot of people he's from somewhere else.
Yeah, that he's a decent person. He's Catholic as well. He pretends to be a religious man. Well, let's not go into politics.
Let's not do that bit.
But when did you want to know about the acting thing? Was it always there?
Yeah. Has it been part of your life, like your whole adult life?
Yeah, no, I always wanted to act. Right. I don't know why. I don't really have an explanation.
Was there a film you saw? Did it just gradually come into your life, or do you remember?
There's not one. Yeah. I can't sort of trace it back to one event. It was sort of a series of things growing on me slowly, which took over. In
my ignorance years ago, I said to there's a gay guy, a friend, and I said, "When did you know you were gay? Like the first time?" And he went, "Do you remember the first time you find women attractive?" And I went,
time.
No, he went, that time. I thought, oh God, a stupid question. When he said it, I thought, no, it was there. I don't know, it wasn't a time. What about growing up, like specific actors, actresses, anyone that stuck out to you?
I always liked Kenneth Branagh because he was Northern Irish and kind of
Is he Northern Irish?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh.
And there's more of us than you'd think. Not everyone keeps the accent.
Because he's definitely lost it.
Absolutely. Antonia Campbell, if that's her name, she's from Derry as well and doesn't sound it. So there's more of us than you'd think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Are you in any Northern Irish productions?
No, it's annoying. I left at a very. I left at quite a young age. Well, I left at a weird age because when you're sort of 17, 18, you're not a child. So you're very much able to remember everything. And, you've had a life in Ireland, but you're still not quite an adult either.
Yeah.
Like 18 is still not really an adult. So you're still very much kind of malleable enough to learn a new culture. But it's a weird, you've got kind of two cultures in your head. So I kind of left before I had started working professionally. I'd sort of been doing I did youth theatre and stuff at the Millennium Forum for kids and drama
But did you
clubs.
think sort of the work was going to be mostly London based and to maybe make that move to London?
So I think it's changing. I think it's getting better. I think there are more things filming now in Northern Ireland than when I was there, because I was there maybe 10 or 12 years ago. But so for a long time there was Liam Neeson and there was Kenneth Branagh, and that was it. And there was literally nobody else. I think it's changing. I think I'm seeing more faces come through now. But
there's a good Irish horror film that just came out. I can't remember the name of it. I just sent it to somebody.
It's the first Irish language horror film, I think.
Yeah, I only saw the trailer. I didn't see the whole thing, but I remember sending it to somebody. I said, "Oh, there you go. It was a good film." Horror, is that something you have just fell into, or were you a fan of horror?
No, I fell into it semi-accidentally. I spent a few years just auditioning for absolutely everything anyone that would look at me at all, even things where I wasn't remotely qualified. I did a whole audition for a touring puppet theatre, and I know nothing at all about puppetry, but I just turned up and went,
give it a go.
Yeah, literally. And I stumbled in the door to an audition for a film called The Convent, which was Paul Hyatt, who used to be a prosthetics makeup artist. He would do if you were being a zombie or something, he would be the bloke that did the great zombie makeup. And then he went into directing, and this was one of his, I don't know if it's one of his first films or maybe his second or third feature film. And I'm always I'm never important enough to be in the main group of people being auditioned, I'm always kind of tagging along at the end. So they'd already cast all the main parts and they'd already had the main auditions like several weeks ago, and I'd not been important enough to get called in. And then they were holding a second round of auditions just for like, I think, just small parts, people that have one line or people that have one scene or something. And I managed to get in the door for that, and turned up. I dressed really inappropriately. Looking back, I don't know what I was thinking. I was quite young and just maybe didn't have enough sense. But I was meant to be playing a possessed nun.
Oh, right. So did you come in sort of the outfit for the role, or?
I wore a red party dress and high heels. Okay. I don't know what I was thinking.
You're still a teenager.
I think I just thought, I better dress nicely. It's an audition. And then didn't even think about like, is this appropriate for what you're doing?
I knew an acting teacher. She said it's a real skill, the audition process. She said she watches for people, and she said she can tell some people ain't going to do it, not because of the acting, because they won't put up with the failing of auditions. She said she can tell some kids come in and they've used to come from nice places.
You need thick skin for that, don't you?
And you can tell from the personality, thinking they're not going to handle rejection at all. It's not their personality type. She said it's a small thing. I remember she was she taught dance, because I had a conversation with her about this, ballet, and she said you would always, it's like every year when the kids come in, you have the kids that get out of the Range Rovers and they've got all the clothes and all that, and then she said then come lunch they all go outside, and I look and I watch them outside, like they go in and say, she said they'll be having like cigarettes and things. She said there's always that one kid that isn't the most beautiful in the class that stays and does the ballet, and you think
that's the person that's one.
Yeah, they're doing further. It because it's ballet and I'm a kid and I've got all the things and and she said, but there's always one that's always stays in the class and you always keep an eye on. You know that's the one.
Well, it's funny you say that. I did ballet for a very short time when I was about 3 or 4. And I was the heifer in the class, so I didn't last very long. I got taken out, but not by the teacher, but by my actual parents.
But how old were you?
I was like 4 or something.
Oh, for God's sake.
The outfit. I was more interested in the outfit, but I was really terrible. So that wasn't ever going to be.
You're not terrible at anything
all
at 4.
These kids, they were like these little thin you know, there was me, like the Hulk.
There's a film coming out now, or it's out. It's called Swan something, and I can't remember. It's quite a revolutionary lady. I think she's retiring. Can you look up the name of the
Swan Song would make sense.
Yeah, no, I think it can't be that obvious. It must be something Swan Song, but it is based on the Swan, and it's the last. She's retiring, and she was like she did. She pushed the barriers quite a lot when she's now an old lady, but she's doing this last one performance and she wants to push the barriers again. And she's doing it this time, but she's not having them wear any tights because she wants to use people of colour. And that's the whole thing of like, she's now in her last, she's saying, no, we don't have to have the white legs, as though we now can have people of colour. So of course, that's causing a problem. But the documentary, I think it's just out like in the cinemas now, or it was out. Is there anything online about it? Swan Song documentary.
Still checking. There's a series called Red Swan.
No, it's a film. No. Don't worry.
Later.
But I thought, that's quite interesting. Yeah. You think this thing is so normal. She said, no, you always got to push the barrier. She wants to do it one last time before she leaves, and maybe that breaks. It might be a one-off thing.
Did you say it's out and you've watched it? Or
I know. I saw the trailer, a review of it,
okay,
just this week from a film reviewer. So, and it's in the cinemas, or it might be select cinemas, but it's just out now. Got quite a good review, and it was. He said it's just the chaos of opening night. He said everything has to go wrong. Like, that's just what it is. And this guy is just a normal film reviewer who said it was great. Like, that's not his thing. He said, he spoke to, he was a ballet director that he spoke to about the film. And he said, oh God, the chaos. And he said, that's absolutely normal. He said, you just hope that when the curtain finally goes up, whatever nerves and all that just works. And he said it just comes down to that. He said it's chaos, and you just hope. And for some reason, it just works. And you go, thank God, but you can't make it work.
It's a bit like the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the duck man. The feet are going under the water, but you don't see it. You just see a duck gliding. You don't see the
very elegantly.
Yeah, but it's really interesting to speak to that acting lady. She said, "Yeah, just the one kid. The one kid that isn't the most attractive, but they're there, and as a kid as well. Because when they're a kid, you're getting them, whatever they are, right at that point."
Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah, I had a couple of beats." She said, "I always just look out the window and just see the kids and they were smoking a cigarette and go, no, they're just doing this to say they go to ballet." Did you ever do ballet? I could see you.
I did Irish dancing.
Ah, that's becoming a thing now. What happened to, who was the fella that did all the Irish dancing?
Michael Flatley.
Yeah. Did he didn't get in trouble, did he?
Not that I'm aware of.
He
directed a film, which one of my friends appeared in years ago. Yeah, he went into directing. Was it
based on dance?
Bluebird? Yeah. Oh God, I can't remember what it was called. No, it was just a film. He first of all he made Riverdance, which was dancing.
Yeah.
No, but he directed a feature film.
Do they still teach Irish dancing in schools? In Ireland?
I don't know that it was taught in school. I went to an Irish dancing class on a sort of Saturday morning kind of thing.
Oh, okay. What other dancing styles did you do?
Well, at drama school, I was taught, supposedly anyway, ballet, jazz, and tap. Which
it's funny that they still teach tap. I mean, I suppose a film could come up.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like you use any of those sort of dancing techniques?
I mean, I don't. I'll be honest, I can't dance at all. I was all right at Irish dancing, but that's because it involves being quite stiff.
Yeah. Oh, right.
So you know, the legs. Yeah, literally, and you just hold yourself very stiff. So I could do that just about because you don't actually have to be able to move to do Irish dancing. But as soon as I came here and people were like, "Move," I was like, "Okay, no,
it's not natural to me." Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you how did you fall into the acting?
You can't fall into acting. I wish you could. No,
I mean the process of going to school and drama.
I clawed my way with my fingernails on the wall into acting.
You climbed up rejection the whole way.
You do theatre and film, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I had a little look at some of the things you've been working on.
What was your first film?
It's hard to remember. I think it might have been, I did a thing called Retribution in like 2015. It might have been that, or it might have been, I did something called White Collar Black around the same time. I can't quite remember which came first, but it was one of those, I think. What does it say on IMDb? Do you know? Do you know more than me? I can't remember.
No, I don't. Okay. I definitely don't know more than you, but...
Because,
You can't remember your first film? I thought that would be imprinted on you.
No, she's
still young.
She's done a lot of films.
Oh yeah, that's right. The horror thing it's not. It just happens to have been that you weren't like a horror fan.
I mean, I don't dislike horror. I mean, I think I've gotten a lot more into it now since I've done so much of it, and I have grown a respect for the genre that I didn't have before. Yeah. I think I kind of was a bit maybe dismissive of it and just sort of thought, oh, it's just people. You think of like the Scream franchise or something, and it's just someone being chased and going ah. But the more time I've spent working in it, the more I've begun to actually get. As I said, it's a real genre. The fans love it. There's a real demographic of people that really enjoy the films. I think there isn't a lot of respect for horror as a genre. If you look at things like the BAFTAs and the Oscars, horror performances very rarely win awards. Yeah. Those actors are not taken as seriously, perhaps, unless you get to be someone like Jamie Lee Curtis, who has maybe started in horror and then had a crossover appeal into mainstream.
Yeah, that's a very good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
Exorcist is the only one that won something, isn't it? And that was for like sound or
and it was a very long time ago as well. Yeah,
and that's pigeonholed, don't they? Sometimes.
Absolutely. But I've as I've begun to look into the genre, with more of a discerning eye, having been working here for some years. I mean, the stuff that A24 is putting out in the last few years is fantastic. And I think absolutely worthy of consideration for serious awards. It's, you can do so much with horror. It evokes really visceral, primal emotions in the viewer. So I've grown to love and respect the genre.
Yeah. Well, I think the internet has, because the horror it's no different to any other. It should be winning in the awards and all that. It's just because of that's the way the system works. It's not seen as proper filmmaking. But I think with the internet, people can now say we don't need the Hollywood cinemas to give us the choices. Yeah. We actually really love these budget horror films, these other horror films. So I think slowly with that generation coming up, you're going to start seeing more. I mean, Hereditary, people thought that was going to win an Oscar, which it should have for the acting. I can't remember her name in that, the one that was in Sixth Sense. But that is a good horror film. Have you seen Hereditary?
No, I haven't seen that.
I put it second to The Exorcist.
When did it come out?
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
It's the lady that's in the mum that's in the Sixth Sense. She's a fantastic actress. But yeah, and everyone said, right, this has got to win something. Nothing.
And
it's just, they can't do it because it's just in the system that people think if I vote for that, it makes me look like I'm an amateur. It's just this old way of thinking. It's so silly.
Well, also, I think if you look at like even in the West End, the ways that sort of horror plays get treated, like 222, the ghost story or whatever it's called, that's become it's a lot of pop stars now appearing in it rather than sort of serious actors. So it becomes a vehicle for like kind of celebrities to have a go at doing a bit of acting. So again, even then, when I see that play, I think...
Do you think they're bringing the celebrities in to kind of bring more mainstream attention to horror?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is about money and everything is about bums on seats. And if they think that a pop star is going to get people to buy tickets, then...
They'll get them in.
Yeah, social media numbers, it's come down to that. For many things... How many social media numbers? Well, what about the talent? Well, it sort of bypasses a lot of the effort if you just come to the thing with a lot of numbers.
If their followers are going to come,
but then it hollows out what you're doing. So it just does. I went to see The Exorcist play. That's where you saw it, did you? You see it? The Exorcist.
No, what was that like?
I don't think I could handle that.
I can't imagine it.
20 years ago, I was thinking, why is that not a thing at Halloween? Why is that not? Because it's really not. It's not a lot of room that you need. It's basically a bed, and you could have another couple of scenes.
I find that absolutely terrifying.
So anyway,
Genuinely.
so they did it. So about 10 years ago, and I thought, I've got to see that. But it just didn't get good reviews.
Oh, that's a shame.
It just didn't work.
It's such an iconic film. I can imagine it's hard to sort of...
They said the visuals, they cut a lot out. Because the Exorcist, have you seen The Exorcist?
I've watched bits of it,
so
but I can't stomach that.
It's more than...
I believe in ghosts. So.
It's not a poltergeisty film. It's more about a man's struggle with religion and so he said, but what they basically had to do is distill it down to like a bedroom scene of The Exorcist.
So it lost a lot of its meaning and context.
That's gone now. So now you're just left with and I saw the trailer and I was like, oh God, if the trailer doesn't look good. And the trailer's always the best bits as well.
Yeah, so that's the highlight reel, isn't it?
And the girl clearly wasn't the girl because they need an actress to do that. So she was older. And the between the actor and then the lights and all that, it seemed to be done badly.
What did they say about it? Did you hear?
It was everything was wrong.
Oh,
so like I said, even the trailer, I thought the lighting was a bit stage school. Lighting. You go, couldn't they not get like Phantom of the Opera guys? I know it's going to be expensive, but it just seemed a bit stagey, like with just being thrown together.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, because I really wanted to see it. And so it got terrible reviews, which I don't stick to, but I saw the trailer and I thought, that does not look right. And I know it broke my heart. But I thought, no, that could have been perfect. I don't know why there aren't more hot. Actually, the Lady in Black. That's
The Woman in Black. That's fantastic.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, no, that's the best that there is.
Does it lean towards horror, or is it more just like a thrillery, suspensey?
No, it's horror. It's terrifying.
Really?
Yeah,
in the theatre?
Yes.
Ah.
But it's never been bettered. I've also seen Catherine. Is it Catherine Tate? Is that her name?
Yeah.
She did a horror recently.
Oh, really?
The Haunting of...
Not Venice.
Enfield.
Oh, the Enfield Haunting.
Yeah, that might be it. And that was so bad.
Hang on, what a play.
Yeah.
Not the TV series.
No, she was on the West End recently.
What? At the Enfield Haunting?
It was, what was it called? Can someone Google it? It was set, it's a real story. I think it was...
Yeah, the Enfield Haunting is a real story, but I wouldn't have thought they put that into a play.
Well, I saw it with Catherine Tate from Doctor Who.
Oh, it might be, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Is there a play, The Enfield Haunting?
It was...
There is?
Yeah.
Really?
So it started...
She knows her stuff,
I saw it first of all in Richmond. So a lot, what they do is they trial things out of town and then they bring it into town. So in Richmond, it had an interval and the final scene... There's no explanation as to who the ghost is the whole way through it. She walks in and the ghost is suddenly sitting in the armchair.
Oh,
and she goes, and then it cut to dark. And there was no explanation as to who he was, what he was, why he had been haunting them.
Don't tell me it ended there.
That was the end. And then it was so bad that, so it transferred the following week into the West End and my friend saw it in the West End. And I said, well, what was it like? And it was so bad. They had changed everything in that week, which is always a really bad sign if they're re-editing it really, in a sort of frenzied.
I didn't know they actually did that on their theatre productions.
If it's bad, they try and chop it up and change it before the West End. So when he saw it in the West End, first of all, the interval had been cut. About 45 minutes of text and dialogue had been cut, which again, bad sign. And they'd added an extra scene at the end for the ghost to chat to Catherine and explain who he was.
They are. I'm not going to go. We've spoken about.
How long was it on show for?
Not long. I think it closed quite early. But
I know that house. I know the house where it was in Enfield.
You do? Yeah. How?
That Enfield Haunting. I'm not going to go on about this. That's the most documented case of a haunting ever.
Oh, right.
It's the only case that's made it onto an official document. A police officer was in the house when something happened. You can actually watch it online. They've got hours of recordings from the ghost. It's so big that you forget, that you don't realise. Yeah. BBC journalists...
When did it happen?
1977.
Oh, right. BBC
journalists went and stayed at the house, lived at the house. A guy from the Mirror went and stayed there. It was investigated. They brought, because the girl was speaking without moving, the noise was coming from her. They even got a ventriloquist in to try and say, this is obviously nonsense. And everyone that went there, they just did the BBC reunion. They have the audio on the BBC called BBC Reunion, where they revisit old documentaries that they made. They get the people back in years later, and they get the people involved, like the lady from the BBC that went to stay there. And they said... there was a ghost.
What I would say, I think the play, it sounds like an excellent story. It was just done really badly in this play. So like, for instance, it was directed at times, just really, really odd direction. So like with the girl who was possessed, who was played very well, the actress was very good, would be doing the whole possession bit at the front of the stage. And then behind her, Catherine Tate had been directed to do it for comedy. So she would be doing a sort of ha 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 ha, and it's like a funny bit behind her, which had the effect of sort of negating what the girl was doing. And then it ended up being neither funny nor scary and just kind of being nothing. Yeah. And I just thought it was a really weird, I don't know who directed
They made a TV
this,
show, even the TV show was bad. That They made a film about The Conjuring. They used the story, but then it just went Hollywood. And it's just like, I'll leave the story. You can watch the documentaries. Like, it's fascinating.
It shouldn't seem too glossy either. I mean, it shouldn't seem too glossy. If it's from Enfield, it should have that
The whole thing was, it was a single mother working class.
Precisely. Yeah. And that's what it needs to feel like.
Yeah. Even everyone it's so big that when you watch it, you go, how does people not know about this? Like, they made a 40...
What, like me?
It was on ITV. They did a 40-minute episode. It was a big story at the time, and I think people, like the horror thing, they couldn't take it seriously because it's ghosts. But it's the most documented case.
They don't believe
ever.
It, do they?
Yeah, and you hear other ghost stories, and you go, well, that's just somebody said somebody. You go, no, this is documented. Like, people live there. Like, investigators live there. The
Wonder who lives there now.
I looked it up, and the guy went back there to have a look. The house is still there. The people won't speak about it anymore, the two girls. But yes, a guy went back there to sort of have a look, like in the documentary.
Did you find anything?
Yeah, the house is still there. And he said, like, Jesus loves you. And it's just a thing. But he didn't knock. But you've got to watch the documentary because you go, that's insane.
Yeah, I'll be adding it to the watch list.
There's all other ghost stories you've ever heard. Oh no, this one's real, and there's documentaries been made. And then there's that, where journalists lived at the house, investigators lived. The guy from the Mirror stayed at the house, and the policewoman that you can watch the interview said she was in the house. The chair shot across the floor, and she's saying it on camera. And then they ran out the house.
Stayed in the house. Well, hopefully they won't stay there too long.
And how it started. But they talk. One of the interesting things again, you don't believe this, that they could get this ghost to talk for hours and you can listen to the audio. So what they did is, there's two working class young girls, and they said it was always when the one girl would come in the room. So when the journalist first went round there at night time, just went round and thought, this lunatic woman would go around there for a story, it was sure, went round there. She said, he was just stood there. And then they brought the girl in, and he said something flicked across the room and smacked him in the face. And he said it hit me hard. And I sort of looked around to see nobody's moving. I put myself in the corner, and then they just the whole thing plays out. Then the BBC journalist came around because they made a TV show about it. But they said they did the TV show, right? They found out that the guy that would said his name on the audio, and it's talking. It's not like and it was like an old guy, and they're saying, "Do you know what you are?" And he's like, yeah, I'm a GHOST. What happened to you? I died dad in the chair. Anyway, when they made the TV show, the guy's son said, that's my dad. He died in a chair in the corner. He went blind. And that's what the ghost had said. So they went to the girl and said, do you know what a hematoma or whatever it was? And she went, this is 2 working class girls in the 70s. She said, no, it meant like the eyes are gone. She said, no, but she was the one that said it, but it's coming through her. And to the BB journalist, she said, when the noise was coming from the girl, he said, no, she wasn't saying it, but it was there. It was just there. And they spoke to the girl, said, where's the noise come from? She said, it comes from like the back of my neck.
That is very freaky.
And this does not stop. It keeps. They speak to the lady. There was a dinner a crossing guard outside the house, and she saw one of the girls floating in the room. The girls have only spoken about it once since because they're older now. And I saw a documentary with them, and she said most of the stuff I didn't tell them what happened because I didn't want to scare my mum. She said like the curtain wrapped around my neck once, but I didn't want to scare my mum. And when they speak to the builder that got called in to the house when the knocking first started, and he said, I'm a big guy. He said, I went round there. He's a builder. I said, there was knocking. He said, and when I went up the stairs, the knocking followed me up the stairs. He said, I'm a big dude. He said, but I had to leave. Like I said, I was scared of that, and I told him to leave.
I don't know how they convinced anyone else to move into that house. If you was aware of that, you'd keep away, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I can't believe. I mean, I don't know if the address is like you wouldn't know if you were just hiring a room. You're not going to Google the address. But I mean, now it's probably everywhere. Let's get off of that. But it's sort of, yeah.
Have you got any horror productions that you're working on at the moment?
So, end of this week on Sunday, I've got 2 films having their premiere at FrightFest.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is always fun. I love FrightFest, and it's the 25th anniversary of FrightFest this year. So they've been running 25 years.
Yeah, I thought that was a recent thing.
No.
Because John Higgins, who does our movie reviews on the show, he's always there. I mean, he's always at every film. He doesn't do anything. In the 10 years that I've known him, he's either going to a film or he's just come back from a film. 10 years, not once.
He must have an encyclopedic knowledge of...
He is my...
You're nodding.
I found him about 10... He's a little diamond that I found and no one knows about him. He knows everything.
Yeah.
You can't throw anything.
Everything to do with films or just life? One of those people.
You try and throw a weird question at him
and the answers.
No, he's not an oracle. But it's about movies. So like 10 years ago, when I met him, I'd say, right, get this film in that year, and then he'll start telling you about the director's daughter and I'm thinking, where have you stored all that information? But the problem is, his mind, he only cares about watching and doing, so he doesn't do anything else, but it's just like this little bank of knowledge that it's great. We'll have him on again actually, because he's always at FrightFest.
So you were saying about FrightFest, let us on.
Absolutely. So I've got 2 films. I'm very lucky and privileged. I've got 2 films screening this time. They've both been scheduled on the same evening, which has put me in a bit of a quandary. And I think it's going to be...
At different times, hopefully?
Well, not that different. There's one at 6 and one at 8. So, I'm meant to be doing the post-screening Q&A for the first film at the same time that I'm meant to be on the red carpet for the second film. So I feel a little bit like, you know that scene in Mrs. Doubtfire when he's trying to have dinner with 2 different
people? Run out and change your clothes.
That's going to be you. And the advice I was given was that I should have a different dress for each film. And I'm like, so I'm going to have to do this, like
turn it inside out,
change the dress,
basically
and then
going to have to be 2 different people at the same time.
Yeah, and sort of run back and forth across the lobby, but I think it's going to be...
Have you seen those magic acts where they change clothes? Like, have you seen it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean the ones where the lady has the dress and she just...
They drop like something over them. Have you not seen? They'll hold like... oh God. Imagine like one of these lighting things.
I think I know what you mean. They hold up.
Yeah, they hold it.
They drop it. They drop it and then it changes.
And all they change the clothes. And I'm thinking, you know, magic, you go, right.
Are you recommending one of those?
Yeah, well, I thought that would solve the problem.
It would.
But I was watching, thinking, that does not make any sense, that, unless it's like a video trick, but it can't be because they're done on stage. But I thought, yeah, maybe do that.
It's impressive. Yeah.
The FrightFest. So what literally is it? I know it goes on for about a week and a half, doesn't it? FrightFest.
And where is it?
Yeah, it's in Leicester Square. Yeah. We're in the Odeon Lux in Leicester Square, which is where all the big celebrities have their premieres. So I'm feeling a bit fancy. It's about 5 days, so it's not that long.
And it's just films and meeting the director sort of.
Yeah, it's all horror movies, genre movies. Which kind of is a slightly more expansive, because it could be horror or fantasy or something in that genre. I think it just evolved. So it started out as I think it was 4 guys that founded it, and they just liked horror movies, and they thought, let's have a festival and get some filmmakers in and screen their movies. And it's just over 25 years grown into this
the
really
Oscars,
big thing.
The first Oscars only had about 450 people. It was very small, and it started to bolt on. I think it was very specific to it, like an inner private members thing, and it just grows out. But FrightFest's a proper thing now.
Yeah, it's ballooned.
Yeah.
Is it over their sort of Halloween period?
So they have technically 3 throughout the year. So the big one is now in August. And then they do 2 days. I think it's the 1st and 2nd of November, which is, as you were saying, the Halloween-y version. And then they do another one in Glasgow, I want to say around January, February. I might be wrong, but I think that's the beginning of the year is Glasgow. So they're, again, they've expanded so much that they've now got like 3 different things throughout the year. But I think it's the biggest now, certainly in the UK. It might be the biggest in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. Have you done one before? Is it just because you got these films in this time?
No, I've done them a few times.
Right.
Yeah. So the convent went. That was my first one when I was the mad nun in the party dress, and then I've been back a few times.
Did you have to turn up the Irish accent for the nun one? Did they make you go down that road?
No, she was. Well, it was filmed in Wales.
Oh,
so
okay,
I don't know if
did you have a Welsh accent?
I think we all did it in RP. We were all, you know, when they do things, because it was set in like the 17th century, and with period dramas, they sort of make everyone talk in RP, even though it's probably not even necessarily that accurate, really, in reality. But for some reason,
nobody knows any different, right?
Yeah. So you watch something set in Florence, in medieval Florence, and everyone's doing RP, and you think.
Did you have to do Q&As before the previous ones?
It depends whether you're kind of important enough to
they judge it at the time
to be asked. Right. So like if one of the lead actresses turns up and Swan's on, then she'll do the Q&A rather than me, because.
But you're definitely doing the Q&A this time.
Well, Jonathan Zauren said, well, he invited me to do it this time, so I've made the cut.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's always a positive thing. Yeah, so it just kind of, it's the director and usually kind of the lead actor gets to do it.
Oh, right, so you're still sort of, okay.
And sometimes you're relegated to sitting in the audience watching the Q&A.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to.
So what, do you just turn up and watch films, basically?
Yeah, yes. There's a lot of networking. I hang out in the lobby and I chat to people. And
do they have an after party?
Yeah, well, everyone kind of repairs to, what's the pub called? It's the Imperial or something. There's like a few pubs which are like the FrightFest kind of takes over those pubs. So it's a good way of, it's networking. It's good to meet people and all the kind of filmmakers come together.
Next film.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The thing is though, it will get too big in the next, and then somebody will buy it up. You know, Warner Brothers or something will buy up the festival. Capitalism always works the same way. As soon as it gets bigger,
but then what do you think?
Then it will lose.
Will it lose its character then?
Yeah, then the prices will get rocketing up. Then there'll be various VIP stay. It will happen. I'm surprised because even in the sort of 6 or 7 years that John's been telling me about it, like we'd have him on at FrightFest to like talk about, we'd bring up like the leaflets of all the films I went through and he'd tell us which ones to go to. But even in 5 years, it's grown like a lot more. Like it's really bit like he brought a catalogue of films. I was thinking, that looks good. That looks good. I think I'm going to miss him this year though.
But, keeping on the horror film theme, we've had one of your followers email us with a couple of questions.
Oh yeah. Can you tell me who it was, or is it a secret?
Somebody called Daniel.
Who's that?
Oh, you might be just a follower. So we've seen your post.
Very kind of.
It was from the United States.
Yeah, they're very safe questions.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for taking the time to write in.
So he's got 2 questions for you. The first question is, what are your favourite horror films and from where you draw inspiration?
Can't choose your own.
Favorite horror films. I like The Others, Nicole Kidman. I like The Shining. I like the kind of classic horror. In terms of more modern stuff, I like. There was a film that came out recently called Judy and Punch, which told the Punch and Judy story from her perspective, which I thought was an interesting kind of twist.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was an Australian film, I want to say, or was it? Well, it starred Mia Wasikowska, who's excellent and really good. And oh God, I can't think. It was an Irish actor as the other lead. Yeah. But anyway, it was very, very good.
I don't think they have Punch and Judy shows anymore, do they? Because it's like domestic.
I have seen, like, I feel like occasionally you still see it. I did a film called Wyvern Hill, which had a whole Punch and Judy theme running through it a few years ago in Hereford, and they hired a proper Punch and Judy performer to come and do it for the sake of the kids, but then we filmed it. I thought it was fantastic. I don't know what...
I loved the show as a child, but when you think about it, it's a guy battering his wife, isn't it?
Violence. So when you're 3, you do something,
you don't know
something
any
else.
Better, yeah.
The policeman comes along with a cricket bat. Well, that's not
normal.
Yeah. Do you know the directors of the Winnie the Pooh horror film that came out?
Not personally. I know of them, obviously.
Yeah, I could see you being in one of their films, because the next recent one, that's Winnie the Pooh 2, was it Blood and Gore or something like that?
Blood and Honey.
Blood and Honey, yeah. I was trying to get them on the show. Because
it's Jagged Edge and Scott.
That was it, Jagged Edge, yeah.
Scott somebody. And I've worked with Vince, who's the actual DOP. He's shot other things with me as well. Over the years.
You haven't seen the Winnie the Pooh thing?
No, I find horror very hard to stomach.
I don't blame you.
I love it, but I have to watch it with somebody else because it's one of those things that follows me after.
Right, so okay.
Once in a while.
What was the last film you see at the cinema?
I did go to see A Haunting in Venice, which you mentioned.
What did you
which I really liked. I thought that was really good.
I didn't like it.
It got a lot of bad reviews, and I don't understand why. It was just up my street.
It was filmed and done well. I just think there was some stuff didn't make sense. They seemed to rush through the story for the sake of the filmmaking. But it was all right. It was a good film.
Do you watch a lot of horror?
I don't watch a lot of anything. I haven't got time. But sort of, I like the British stuff, like 28 Days Late. I think we do gritty horror.
Yeah,
well.
The grit is great.
Because the American thing, when everything's too perfect, it doesn't feel
boring,
right. Whereas English,
it gets a little bit polished and a little bit samey.
Yeah. So the 20. I mean, we're still waiting for 28 Months Late to come out if they pull the bloody finger out.
But going back to Daniel's question, last question for Daniel, getting that in there. Do you have any plans to do any horror films in the States?
If someone wants to hire me and take me to the States...
You got plans to do anything anywhere.
I'm very willing to get on the plane.
Yeah.
It's about... I mean, I'm not going to fly to America and just stand there on the street with a suitcase looking around. You know, obviously, like, someone has to hire me and I can go anywhere.
What about those networking parties that you were talking about?
I mean, I think that things have changed I think whenever people talk about... why don't you go to America? I always think that's kind of maybe the way it used to be, like way, way back in like the 70s. Yeah. But I actually think that the distribution models are so different now. You can film something here and it can be on Netflix and then it's available globally. So
there's no need to travel. They'll come to you. There's no need.
Well, I think if the quality of the film or whatever, the piece is good enough, and then you sell it globally. So and a lot of the biggest shows are cast here by Nina Gold and shot at Pinewood. So and actually, if anything, like Tom Cruise came here to shoot the last Mission Impossible. It was our facilities that he used.
There's a few more big production companies opening up. I think there's some in Hertfordshire. What's the one? You've still got the one in Borehamwood. You've got the Warner Brothers in Watford.
There's 3 Mills as well.
There's a few of them popping up now, like big ones.
Elm Street Studio.
Elm Street Sky Studios just opened up a big place there.
That's right. So there's plenty of work here. I think people... to me, whenever someone says that, I just think they lack experience. Because it's an idea people have in their head that, like, you have to go to LA if you want to be in it. And I don't
it's quite antiquated now to think about.
A little bit, I think we've moved on.
What's your favourite sort of, if you could have been in a film, like what would you have been in? Like,
I want to be Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton.
Oh, perfect. That would be brilliant.
So you'd be quite quirky. You're going for the Tim Burton thing.
I feel I could have given Alice a go. But
do you prefer theatre?
There'll be another one, don't worry.
Or film? I mean, taking money out of the equation, what do you prefer to do?
I don't know. I like both.
There's nothing
you don't have a preference.
Why do I have to choose?
Yeah.
You definitely don't have to.
What plays do you like
to choose from?
I like everything. I like Shakespeare. I like I went the motive in the queue last year was stunning. Did you see that?
No.
It was about so it was Johnny Flynn and Mark Gatiss playing John Gielgud and Richard Burton when Gielgud directed Burton in Hamlet back in whenever it was, the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
And the kind of rehearsal room dynamic between the two of them. And it was excellent because you got to see a bit of Hamlet as well as see the rehearsal room. So it's like a play within a play.
Oh, okay.
And Tuppence Middleton playing Elizabeth Taylor. So yeah, I think we make astoundingly good theatre in this country.
Have you seen I can't remember the exact name, but where everything goes wrong. Have you seen that one?
I haven't been
the play
to see
where
it.
everything goes
yeah,
wrong.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, one of my friends is in it actually.
Oh, okay.
I've worked with him on. I played Lady Windermere.
Oh, okay.
With him,
Yeah.
And then he went on to grand things in the West End.
Is any of the Oscar Wilde plays still going?
Well, Lady Windermere is Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is it's still going? Like, still, I don't see the name popping up anywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's produced. The Importance of Being Earnest is constantly in production. I've seen
I'm just
so
thinking
many
Central.
productions
Right,
of
yeah.
it.
I'm just so used to seeing Mamma Mia and Grease and things like that around
Yeah,
here
yeah.
that you forget there's a whole world of theatre happening
of course.
around
I mean,
it.
there's so much stuff happening as well. If you go to if you watch stuff in fringe venues, like
Yeah,
smaller
right. Yeah,
venues,
yeah.
like I go to see like one-man shows in rooms above a pub that seat 25 people. Like you can see all kinds of things. You just have to be willing to travel outside of the big theatres.
I dated briefly. There was an actress, and they were doing something. I can't remember the name of it. It was so long ago. But I'm not kidding you. When I went there was about 30 people, like 10 on each side, and I thought that's a lot of pressure because there's no sort of like the lights blinding you. I'm looking at your eyeballs there, and she was there crying.
It's
and
harder in an intimate venue, actually. Yeah,
I couldn't believe. I mean, she was crying in tears.
Did she fill the venue?
I mean, there was only had to be a few people in there. It was full,
right.
but it was so small that when I walked in, I was like, I didn't know like that was she's still on the way up, you know. But there might have been. There's probably not even 50 in a small room, and they were doing. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, she's there grabbing the guy's leg, crying, and it was done in sort of Shakespearean language. I don't know what it was, but I thought, God, that's the pressure when you can look at people's eyeballs.
You are the
but
show.
to be able to switch that off, didn't work out for her to be. I shouldn't say anything, but you think the acting career didn't work out. Yeah, no, nothing terrible. I think she teaches it now, but there was a bit in between. So, what about directing stuff? I know you're quite young still, but is that on the horizon?
I don't think so. I think I've got enough problems.
But the want.
You've got enough on your plate right now.
Genuinely, I mean, what I love is this microphone working. I feel like I'm not speaking.
No, that's fine.
So, what I love is when I have a director who's willing to kind of work collaboratively, and I can suggest things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all I want. I just want the freedom to be able to, like, I mean, the other day I was doing a photo shoot and the photographer suggested something and I said, no, I don't think so. I think it would be better if I did. And he said, oh, are you one of those actors that argues with the director?
They didn't literally say that.
Yeah.
That's quite full on.
It is. And I stopped the shoot there and then and I said, look, I reserve the right to say no at any point to anything. I don't need a reason. Mm-hmm. I just, if I don't want to do it, I don't want to do. Yeah. But they have to understand that it is a collaboration. He can suggest ideas. I can suggest ideas. I can say no. He can say no. But it's very much, what it has to that relationship, and my ideas have to be valued and taken seriously and listened to. I think sometimes but some men I think don't like a woman with too many ideas. You get the sense of oh God, is she talking again? When I was listening an
actress, and she was saying that, she said there's the directing, she said it's weird. She said because there's one you feel comfortable with, somebody just knows what they want and you can just click in. She said, but then you have got other people where, she said, because sometimes they'll have a sentence, he said, but they'll realise that it just doesn't come out of my mouth right.
Yeah,
it
precisely.
Just doesn't, whether it's the cadence of the way you specifically talk. So if you say, instead of saying that, can I say that word? It just sounds better. He said, but no, some people are just like, and go, it's clunky coming out of my mouth for no reason. It's just, the jawbone or whatever.
Well, so I don't necessarily want to direct myself, but all I would say is I do want directors that are open to listening to me.
Do you feel that with time you've been able to sort of navigate that a bit better? Because I'm sure in the earlier days it was very difficult.
Absolutely. Nowadays I kind of don't mind being a bit rude if I have to be. Like I told that guy there and then, look, if this is going to be the way you are, I'm not doing this shoot.
Yeah.
Just, whereas maybe 10 years ago, I would have
been polite about it.
Precisely. And I think certainly for me anyway, and I think for a lot of women, it took 10 years to learn that I was allowed to be impolite. I think you're so taught to just be nice.
100%.
And now I've just learned, actually I don't. And also the great thing about having done a lot of films and being slightly more established, I kind of don't need the job that much. I'll do it if it's, if I like the director and it seems like a good project. Yeah, I'll do it. If I don't need it though, so if I decide halfway through, you know what, I'm not enjoying this,
and you don't need to leave. You don't need to put yourself in a situation that you're not comfortable in
as if I need another set of photographs from this photographer.
Yeah. Well, Oprah Winfrey, one of her big teaching things was she said, it took me 20 years to learn the word no. She said it's the hardest thing.
It's a big word,
say, no. I don't want to. I don't like, no, I don't like. That takes a lot of confidence that you wouldn't think to say no, thank you, and just move on. Have you got anything way off in the future that you're heading towards? I could see you doing one like Asia. They're desperate for that. Yeah.
Any particular reason?
No, they tend to go for the very sort of milky skin. That's a big thing out there, the contrast.
Yeah, that is true.
And the money's out there. Has that ever been a pull towards there, modelling or acting?
Not really.
No, really?
No, I'm interested primarily in British film.
Right, okay.
I think that's where I want to go. I'm hoping I have various projects always on the go, obviously, and I've got stuff coming out in 2025. But I'm hoping to work towards a project where I'm in maybe more of a leading role.
Yeah.
Because I've done a lot of coming into films and having one scene, which is absolutely fine, and I'm so grateful and lucky and happy to be there and do my one scene. But moving forward, I need to do a bit more, maybe.
What was there anything you would have done? I mean, like the no, being able to say no. Is there anything that you, looking back, you would have told yourself? I mean, you're not old, but anything that you go, oh, it would have been easier if, I did that, or I didn't do that, or I'd stayed doing that, or I hadn't trained doing that, but I trained doing this, or
not really. I feel I did the right thing, and I did what I wanted to do, and I did what I felt was right at the time. Yeah, I think I've just learned to take a bit less shit from people.
Yeah, which brings me on to that you're a union member, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you've and you're also a committee member at the TUC. Mm-hmm. So do you feel that potentially some of these experiences,
the trade union TUC?
Yeah. Do you feel like some of these experiences have actually led to this point with you being vocal and standing up for?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it works hand in hand. The more time you spend sitting in union meetings, the more you realize actually I don't have to say yes to anything
you don't want
this employer suggests. I think the sad thing about acting is that it's so oversubscribed. There are so many people wanting to be actors and not enough jobs. So it leads to this sort of desperation where people feel desperate to have a job, and then they put up with situations and things they shouldn't put up with, but they're so desperate they feel they can't say no because they don't want to lose the job. And I guess the union is just trying to work to redress that balance.
To balance everyone's rights, so we're not kind of...
Well, otherwise I think it would be a race to the bottom. I mean, it's already a race to the bottom. Can you imagine what these people would be doing if they could get away with... if there were no union, what would they not be doing to us?
How far would they go with it? Yeah.
Does the England have the SAG, like the American version of that here?
So Equity. is the sort of UK version. Of course, there are quite big differences. SAG has a closed shop. We don't have a closed shop in the UK, which is quite a significant difference because obviously a closed shop union has a lot more power for bargaining. Yeah. We have unfortunately less power as a bargaining union, but
what do you mean by a closed shop?
So a closed shop means that you cannot work in an industry. I'll use acting as an example.
Yeah.
You cannot work as an actor unless you are a member of the union. So you must have a SAG card in order to be on a set working.
In America?
In America.
I thought there was a choice, no?
I mean...
Because you have to get SAG vouchers. You have to earn your way in, sort of thing.
You do have to earn your way in. I mean, there are some productions that would be non-union productions.
Right, yeah.
However, if you are a SAG member, you can't take too many non-union productions.
Oh, they actually say you've got to be... Oh, right,
so,
okay, right.
And if anyone certainly working in like a network TV job, they're all SAG.
Right.
You know, whereas we don't have a closed shop in this country. Thatcher got rid of the closed shops in order to break the power of the unions.
Yeah.
So anyone from anywhere can act and can just start acting tomorrow morning. You don't need to be a member of anything. And this causes the issue. It means that... for instance, it would be difficult if we wanted to go on strike, for instance, because, you know, half the members in the workplace might be striking and the other half are not union members.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Which do you think's the better model, the SAG?
Yes.
Yeah,
Just because of power. If you know everybody's in, then everybody agrees that...
and then everyone can go on strike together. And they can't undercut you either, so they can't hire... They don't have the option of simply hiring... Well, we'll hire actors who aren't union members. Which actors? We're all union members.
Do you know anything about SAG? Like, do you know how long it's been around for? 80s, 90s?
Oh, no, before that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the first SAG strike was 1960.
Oh,
so
right.
It was, I think it was founded probably 1910 or 19... Yeah, it would have been the beginning of the 1900s.
I'm just thinking, how did it come about? Because somebody would have had to be the one to say, right, we've got to put this barrier down to benefit everybody. Hollywood, something about Hollywood maybe?
I don't know is the short answer, but I suspect it was started by the actors themselves. That usually they are. It's founded by the working actors.
What happened to they were in America? They were, I don't know if they went on strike, but they had the about people using virtual reality. Do you remember? It was like about a year ago. What was all that about?
The AI.
Yeah, so
saying
that was one.
Again,
so that is the SAG strike. There were a number of issues that SAG were striking about. The sort of unlicensed, unbridled use of AI was one of them. And another big issue was the lack of residual payments for streaming services.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
And I can give you an example. So if you put your film on Amazon, how much do you think you make out of that film being on Amazon? Say for the sake of argument that you have to pay £10 to buy the film to watch it on Amazon. How much do you think goes into the pocket of the person who put the film on Amazon?
Are you going to say none? It's like a one-off.
It's going to be very low, isn't it?
How much is it?
You get 1 penny per streamed hour.
It's ridiculous.
It's almost like,
and
don't waste my time, just keep it. It's not worth
the
it.
other £9.98 goes into Amazon's pocket, and Amazon is just the streaming platform. And this is the issue. People cannot live.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need everyone to be part of the union to be on the same team.
Yes.
Yes.
She gets it. She understands.
Do you think Amazon or Netflix is better? Would it be the same? It's just the model.
All of the streaming services are the same. They all have very low... the MU has the same issue, the Musicians Union, because Spotify is the same. All of these new streaming platforms.
Right. Oh, it's the streaming.
So basically every time there's a change in the medium through which media is being broadcast... Yeah. The people with the new medium conveniently forget to include any kind of royalties or payments for the filmmakers or the creatives. So every time that SAG has gone on strike, it's always been for the same issue. Yeah. Basically. So like in 1960, it was the move from films that had been screened in cinemas were now going to be screened on television. Right. And wouldn't you know, they had forgotten to put in some clauses in the new contract saying that people needed to get payments for those screenings on television. Right, that didn't exist in the legislation. Yeah. So we had to go on strike in order to get them to put that clause in. Nowadays, the move has been from sort of traditional platforms like TV, films and cinemas onto streaming. And wouldn't you know it, they've forgotten to put in that clause again.
I suppose the rules always have to catch up with what's happening.
Precisely. The legislation always has to catch up. Yeah. And every time there's a move to a new medium, we have to go on strike to remind them to put in that clause. You know?
Yeah. So it's just the actors and actresses.
Yeah.
It must be hard now to be an actor and actress to come into stuff because
it's always been hard, but
you've got to pay bills. That's the thing. So it's like you can't really, you know, if you can, you don't want to, you can't pick and choose. So it's not like you start fighting a fight for something you don't have. So if those people are there willing to do stuff for nothing, it's hard to...
Absolutely. And you know, I see it all the time on like Facebook groups, like Actors UK and these kind of groups. You'll get people posting, I know I want to make my film, I can't afford to pay my actors, but you know, it'll be good experience. Yeah. And I mean, I sympathize in one sense, because obviously I understand this filmmaker on Facebook probably doesn't have much of a budget, but still wants to pursue their creative vision of making a film. Why should only rich people be allowed to make films? Mm-hmm. You know, poor people or people without resources still deserve to have their creativity and their vision and make films about their experience. But the flip side of it is, well, you know, if actors are working for free or for a sandwich, actors can't live. So
there's no right and wrong. There's going to be a line where you go, well, that has to be that. And that's just the way it is. We can't make everything fair for everyone, but you've got to... I worked on a film set, and I mean, the guy was having to get actors to share rooms.
Oh, right. Like, what was you doing on the film set?
Well, because I filmed a comedy pilot, but realised didn't know how to make them, so I sort of snuck myself on via the back door into a film set to just go, right, I don't know what happens here. I did not know they still used a clapper. I thought that was like jodhpurs from Hollywood, because I had no experience, so I thought, we don't use clappers. And I was like, somebody said, no, you need the...
You do get digital ones. I've seen ones that are like...
No,
like the digital...
They're about 700 quid. But I didn't know. I thought it was just an old thing that...
I think it's for the sound.
Yeah,
they need
but I had no experience of anything. So I went in the first day and I was like, I realised I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Oh dear.
I mean, when I worked in to film it, I suddenly, as we went to do the first scene, I thought, hang on, I've never acted before. As I went to open the door for the first scene, luckily it was like mockumentary, so it wasn't too hard.
Sometimes you just got to put yourself forward for things that you're not quite ready for.
Well, what was his name? Seinfeld. It was the two guys, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. I listened to an interview with him recently, and he said, people think we're actors. He said, neither one of us can act. That's why we do stuff playing ourselves. He said, we are not actors. So everything is basically them heightened. And a lot of it's ad-libbed stuff as well, anyway, because they're comedians. But he said, people think we're actors. We're not actors. I can't act.
Winging it.
Yeah. But yes, because somebody said to me, oh, you about acting? I said, I was basically playing me.
A lot of people can't act and are still on TV. I wouldn't worry about it.
It was funny with even with podcasting, why I would always try to talk to people beforehand, just to talk, sit down, because there's no difference between when these mics are off or on for us. It was funny that no matter what you said, the second you said ready, go, people tense up. You know, just the podcast. It's just you can't get over it. There's nothing you can do. It's like, because I always try to have longer conversations, because I realised in the first half an hour, no matter what you said to people, they're still
it's the warm-up
like
section,
and you could turn the sound off, and you could watch people sort of relax and do this. So, but you can't get over it. So that's why we end up just yapping away about anything, and then just go. So the amount of times I said, "Are we recorded?" We go, "Yeah."
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Podcasting. That's another medium. Have you ever thought about anything to do with that?
I mean, I've been on other people's podcasts.
Nothing. You thought add to your bow to.
What would I talk about? Just me yapping on.
All the things
like
I do.
But that is podcasting, to be fair.
Yeah.
No, if you had to do a podcast, what subject matters would you tackle? Would it be like the union thing, acting, equality?
I don't want to do a podcast. That's why I can't think of
because I think when all the agencies I know, any celebrity, they basically try to push them to do a podcast. Like it's just
there's a lot of celebrities doing
because
podcasts.
It's to do with generating numbers.
If you have a name, I think it might be worth doing. If you're famous and you're just yakking on about what I did for breakfast this morning, then fine. But I don't think I could get away with yakking.
Right?
About
Yeah, it's
breakfast.
Not if you don't want to. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I need to have something more to offer.
Do you have you done any ad-libbed stuff for acting? I suppose it's more comedy. You wouldn't really.
I mean, the scene I did in Derelict, actually, that's screening on Sunday, that was improvised. Although I don't know whether it was ad-libbed. It was improvised in a sort of. We talked about it first, and kind of.
Did it need a lot of takes for the ad-lib?
Not really. No, I'm quite good. I got it quite quickly. She says.
I wonder how many films would do the scene and now just do it how you want to do it. You know, that seems like quite a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it did make it more natural. I suppose. Yeah, it.
Just, I suppose that's down to director what they like doing.
It has to be experienced actors, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. If you had to do one of the, I'm trying to, theatre or film. If I made you choose.
Oh, here again. I guess I'll say film, but I feel bad because I do.
No, it doesn't mean
theatre.
Yeah. Have you done much theatre stuff? I haven't seen you on theatre stuff.
I mean, I have. I think it's just not publicised quite as well. I did. My first job was Titania in A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I do remember. I don't remember my first film, but I do remember that. And I went on tour around the whole country. And then, as I said, I did Windermere last year at the Chelsea Theatre, and I do bits and pieces. But
do you find theatre a bit harder? As in, like, you know what you were saying about the lady that you dated and everything was on the spot?
Yeah.
I feel like when you do something wrong...
Yeah, but there's no, can we do that again?
You can't do it. You can't do it again. You've got to improvise and hope that people haven't realised.
I actually enjoy doing it, and I'm not afraid of doing it live. My only issue is that it does take up... it takes up much more time in my schedule.
Oh, right.
So if I were going to do a play, I have to mark out, right, that's 3 months out of my diary when I cannot do anything else because I'm engaged every evening. Whereas with a film, I can be on the set for less than a week and there you've shot the film. And because I've put less time into it, I then have less kind of value on it, in that if the film should happen to be, maybe it turns out to be a bit terrible, it's all right. I haven't spent that much time on it. I spent less than a week. So whereas if I've invested 3 months of my life in this play, then it's got to be good. It's got to sell out. It's got to get good reviews. Otherwise, it's not worth my
time.
And then in those 3 months, I'm not available to do any films or any other auditions. So
there is a bit more pressure maybe around theatre.
It's got to, my threshold for whether I'll do a play is a lot higher. I have to think it's a really good project. Whereas I can afford to take a punt on a film that may or may not work out.
But theatre, you're completely immersed, aren't you?
Yeah, it takes over your whole life. So I think I'll only do it if I think it's going to be worth
the time.
Yeah.
Do you go to the theatre much? No, you don't go to the cinema?
Yeah, no, I go to the theatre, I think probably more than I go to the cinema, which I'm in the habit of kind of going to see live things. And I kind of,
How are the prices going with theatre now? Are they going up,
very
down?
Expensive.
Expensive.
It is expensive, yeah. It's such a barrier.
Any shows you'd recommend?
I think The Motive in the Queue is just finished. I think whatever's on at the National is all, I think, Dear England, I think, is on, it's now moved to Soho Place. Off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure. What do you think
of Phantom of the Opera? Because I wanted to go and see it, and I said to somebody, and he went, "Oh, that's for tourists." I thought, no, what? Surely that's a proper...
It's not for tourists.
I didn't think it was right.
Yeah, it's a fantastic musical.
It's just that you said, and I thought, I don't know. Maybe it's like I'm going to be the only one there.
Possibly because it's long running. It's like really well known. So
I thought, was there something
tourists would know about it,
Somebody, but he sort of thought he knew what he was talking about. Sort of put me off a bit, and I thought, oh, am I just walking in there like an idiot?
No, if you want to see it, you should totally go.
Have you said? Oh, so you have seen it, Phantom of the Opera?
Yes.
Have you seen the film?
Yes.
Oh, what did you think? I haven't seen it.
I can't remember it. Have there been more than one?
It's a while.
Film?
No, I don't. Maybe different. Maybe.
Who was in it?
It was Emmy Rossum. No.
Oh, who was the guy in it? The guy was quite famous. The main guy, wasn't he? Like
someone the guy that played the whole. Because I can't remember. Sorry.
The actor for the film Phantom of the Opera, the main guy. Because I didn't realise. Obviously, he's got the mask on. But no, I don't know if it's the guy that played.
It was Michael Crawford on the stage who originated.
Yeah.
I don't know who was in the film.
It's Gerard Butler, I think.
Oh, Gerard Butler, that's it. Yeah,
okay.
You don't think that was it?
No, I wasn't expecting that.
I mean, obviously he's got the mask. You can't see him early on. But
Hidden Depths, there you go.
What's that?
Hidden Depths.
What's that?
No, Gerard Butler
because you didn't know
he could sing.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the other thing.
I haven't seen him in a while either, Gerard Butler.
Yeah, he did some dodgy movies for a while,
didn't he?
I think the Spartans thing caused him a few problems when he did that. Sparta, no, 300.
Because there was a time he was in all the films.
Yeah.
One of my friends has been filming with him lately. I can't think what they were making. But he's making stuff.
So he was in Leicester Square doing something. I was just walking through and I didn't know anybody, but I half recognised him. And some girls went over to him and said, "Oh, can I have a photograph?" Right? So they went to take a photograph. And this is the modern culture. Right? They all run over. Took a photograph like this. So he stood there, right? Like, if I'm him, like, come over, take a photograph. They take a photograph. And then they turned away from him and walked off. And they were all looking at the camera. And he was stood there.
They didn't speak to him.
For about 5 seconds. And then just walked off. And I thought...
It's a bit awkward.
I thought, what's happening? It's like, it's more important to have the photograph of
than
the person.
To speak to the person.
Than to have the... it's more important to have something to show than to actually swear. And it was about 3 seconds where he was just stood there thinking, are they going to turn me out? And then he just walked off.
Yeah.
And it just scarred me. I thought, what's going on?
Modern
turn
culture.
And walk off, didn't even turn back. Look, I've got the photograph of him.
Yeah.
But the actual person doesn't matter.
It happens a lot. I've seen people in bars doing that, they're with groups of people, but they're more interested in the phone than the group of people.
Because you're now living to show somebody something rather than be there. Like, I remember a friend of mine who died. I remember just a little thing. And I was talking to him and I said, oh, where's your phone? And he went, oh, I don't know. He said, I don't know, it might be in the car. And I thought, oh, he doesn't care.
He's like, I like you.
It's a tool. That it's not this thing. I did a photo shoot with somebody once for the magazine, a young kid, and he had the phone in his hand. And he sat to have the photographs taken with the phone. I went, oh, give us the phone. He went, no, I'll put it in my pocket. And I thought, you're having photographs done in the studio, and he was holding it there. Again, that just made me go, like, what's
happening?
That is a photo shoot. You've got to let go of your phone. You can't. No, I've got to have it there right there with me.
Different time now. It's an extension of people most days.
Yeah, it's almost antiquated. You're almost the weirdo now to say, no, I'd sooner experience things. I'm not doing something for the growth of photograph to show somebody, because it's become like who I am online. Yeah. That avatar of me is more important now.
How many times have you missed something because you're trying to take a picture of
Never.
it? That happens to me. So I now try and be in the moment, because I've missed a few things trying to take a picture of it.
And it's weird because the thing is, the world has changed now and you need to have those things. It's not like you just got to do it. But I just think I missed the boat. And I can't do it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, but it's worthy. But then you go, no, it's a problem. Like, the world has changed now. And it's not like I'm 60 and I can say, well, I can see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. I might as well just head towards that. So it's like you're stuck in the middle of going, look, I don't care, but you've got to care. But
you have to be involved.
So we do some writing stuff, script writing. So I sold a script, and the agency, I was trying to get them to do other stuff. And they basically said, we can't hire you. You need to get your social media numbers up. That's it. Social media numbers up.
So is that what this podcast is in aid of?
No, this has been going a long while.
That's why I'm here.
Tell us the truth.
No. I was going to do this for, like, I said this before. I was at the beginning of podcasts. I went to the BBC close to 18 years ago when when they were laughing at me. No, they weren't laughing at me, but they felt, I could tell the guy who felt sorry for me that I was wasting my time on this thing called podcasting. He sort of knew what it was. He said, why don't you can talk? Why don't you do these radio academy? I was like, I'm not that person. But I could do podcasting because that's how I educated myself, was through audio. So I knew what podcasting was, and I couldn't listen to the BBC. I didn't understand the politics. I didn't understand. But I knew podcast was sort of halfway in between. But I knew how important the medium was. But anyway, so, I mean, she didn't even mess about. She just said, we can't represent you because you need to have at least 10,000 followers. At least, I mean, just to be on to just to meet.
And that was when?
3 months ago, lady, I know her. I've done some work with her. She's very nice, so I can go to her with the questions before I go to other agencies. And she said they won't talk to her. They don't care about what you've got. She said you need social media numbers. I thought, God, that cold. Just all right. What do I do? Just sort of jumping around doing fitness things.
Do another podcast.
Yeah, but just this. You've got to do it. You're in the media. You've got to be
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I've had people that come on here. They said, oh, I'm not really into podcasts, but my agent said, I've got to get used to talking on the microphones. And I thought, well, fair enough. You just got to use it as a training ground to get something out of it. I mean, we did have one actress. I said, she was going to America. I said, please be famous. It would really help us out if you could. Because she was going like with the next few weeks. I said, please. I said, no, we won't take it down. I don't get a call from your agent later on.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But it's all good experience. Because when I saw you talk, it's actually when I saw you talk on another podcast, I thought, oh, you were talking about the union. What was it you were talking about? There was a website that was about taking money.
Yeah, it is Spotlight.
Is it Spotlight? Yeah, you're saying they were supposed to take enough to cover their bills, but now it's a business. Was we saying like £3 million £3 million a month, something they were taking in? And he said it's not costing them that money to run that company.
That's correct. So I think the legislation states that get this right. If you're a service, a work-finding service, like an agency, work-finding service, you can only charge something which is a sort of a reasonable expectation of what it actually costs to run your business.
Service, right, yeah.
But Equity sort of looked at the figures. There's now 90,000 people on Spotlight, which shows you the problem.
Yeah.
Which means they're making about £1.25 million a month.
Yeah.
And we're questioning whether it actually does cost £1.25 million a month to run what is essentially a fancy website.
Yeah,
definitely.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I've heard different arguments. One guy did actually write to me and say, Ayvianna, I think you're underestimating the cost of running, a big website. And it is a big website. It's got 90,000 people on it. But I don't know, Equity is contending this. We have put in a case at the High Court. So a judge will look at it and decide if that is, in fact, a reasonable estimate of the costs of running that business.
If you said 800,000, you go, okay, an office, 5 workers. When you get to 3 million, I'm sure you said 3 million, you go, that's not.
It's over 1 million a month.
Yeah.
So it's
So what has Equity said? Like, what's their stance on it? That they're charging too much? Is that?
Yeah, well, just what I said, that they're breaking this piece of legislation in that they are not charging just a reasonable estimate of their running costs. They are, in fact, charging so much that they're making profit every month, which isn't allowed legally under this piece of legislation. Spotlight contends that actually they're not an agency and thus the piece of legislation does not apply to them.
Okay.
Equity says you are an agency, it does apply. So we're in that kind of...
That's what's going on right now.
How did you get involved with all of this, like the union stuff?
How did I get involved? I first went to my first union meeting maybe 10 years ago.
You just thought it was a good idea to go to one?
Yeah, so and anyone can go, any member can go to a meeting and just turn up and bring your issues or just listen to what's being said, and you can vote if there's like a debate on something, we vote on policy. So any member can go.
Right.
And I just sort of slowly, anyone who turns up who sort of seems vaguely organised and capable, you suddenly find yourself helping out with something.
Right.
I mean, I think they wanted someone to run a workshop, and I found myself, a clipboard was thrust into my hands and suddenly I was sort of running this thing.
Right.
And then it just slowly, over the years, you just get more and more
involved in it,
entwined.
Yeah.
And then I ended up standing in an election, and then I was elected, and now it's all, the joke has gone far too far.
Right,
and now I'm running parts of North London. So it's...
Oh, that's brilliant. Because, I mean, you've discussed a lot of issues that surround actors and actresses. What do you think there's sort of one key issue at the moment that's quite prominent?
It's hard to break it down to only one issue because there are so many. I think actors, in a sense, the problem is there are too many of us, and this means that employers can get away with stuff that they wouldn't otherwise get away with. So the AI issue was/is a very big thing. We had essays going in, signing something, which then a production would take a scan of their body, create a digital replica, then they could use that replica forevermore, placing you in the background of scenes, even in different films, having paid you for one day, that initial day, and then they own the scan forevermore.
Yeah, and not getting paid very much, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like that's a payment of one day's work when they can use your replica forever. When, really that essay should have been hired every single time and paid every single time. Sexual harassment is still an ongoing issue, which I don't feel has been resolved satisfactorily.
Even nowadays?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You think people would be overly sensitive to it now? I mean, do you have to have...
There's more whistleblowers now, but I feel like
Are you hearing about it?
Hasn't gone away.
Right, okay,
yeah. As I said, the spotlight's an issue. We have no agreement in commercials. We haven't had for a long time, meaning that there's no standard rates that Equity members can expect to receive if they do commercials. We have no, we're working on getting together our first video games agreement, because again, that's kind of a new medium that the legislation didn't exist for video games, and we're having to create it. It's just...
Didn't Bruce Willis has just sold his rights to his
replica?
His replica, yeah. Because he's got, what has he got? Not MS. Alzheimer's.
He has got MS, I believe.
Is it M?
It's like deteriorative, isn't it? Yeah. So he's going to lose
said,
control.
look, he just needs care, money. So he's just said, look, do what you want.
Again, that's fine if he's consented to it and he's been, I would imagine, paid quite well.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, our members, they don't have the advantages of having Bruce Willis's fancy legal team. I'm sure he has a very big legal team. And they don't quite understand what they're signing half the time. And if they don't understand it, I would say they haven't really got the capacity to consent properly. And they're not being paid.
What about the amount of union members? Are there becoming more people or are they becoming less? Is it stable?
It sits between 48,000 and 50,000. And that's, but you can see already the discrepancy. There's 40,000 people that are on Spotlight that are not in the union.
Oh, right.
So we lost.
Can you advertise for that on Spotlight?
She's advertising.
I wonder if legally they could turn it down. Oh, I suppose it's.
But you know what's interesting is we've looked at it, and actually we have quite high workplace member density among members that are working. So, like at the National Theatre, I think it's 90% membership. In the West End, it's like 75% membership. So the people that are working do tend to be members. So that means that, well, I would take from that most of those 40,000 are perhaps not actually regularly working.
Right, yeah.
Which means they're paying money for Spotlight, and it would seem not really getting jobs out of it. So
they almost sound antiquated, like the Spotlight thing. That seems like it's holding on, but that's not going to last because there's too much other competing forces, no need for it anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's not, those barriers aren't needed.
It's still a key part though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's holding on, but you don't need it. You know, it's not it just need it because people think you need it. But I think the world just slowly erodes those.
I suppose the employers as well, it's if they've got criteria on Spotlight, don't they? So they want sometimes people that only fit a certain criteria as well.
Yeah. The issue is that Spotlight has a monopoly, so there is no competitor, which is part of the problem.
What's the specifics of Spotlight? It's a platform.
Yeah, well, it's the casting platform.
So it just happens to be the main one, but there's nothing that it's doing that other people couldn't do, if you see what I mean. It's a platform to showcase yourself.
It has more legitimacy than, say, I mean, there are other sites like Mandy and Star Now, but
it's legitimate because it's been the one before. It's always been known as that. It's nothing that is locked down. Like it can't.
Well, a serious competitor would have to emerge, but Spotlight has so much infrastructure in place, it would be very difficult.
It's just the go-to. Okay.
It's probably been around a long time, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, it used to be a book back in the days when there was a book, and now it's all moved online. So one of the issues with Spotlight is that although all the actors pay the same amount, we don't all see the same jobs, so that it is actually a hierarchical tiered system.
Yeah.
So if a big job goes out, it will only go out to the first. Yeah. The top 5 agents see that job.
Capitalism,
and then maybe a job on Casualty, which is still sought after but not the most high end, might go out to 10 agents.
Right.
And then it's as you go down the kind of pyramid,
it's filtered through. Isn't it?
So if you're at the bottom, if you're like me and you're kind of not anyone very special, you only see the sort of shittiest jobs anyway. So part of our argument is, why am I paying the same amount as someone who's with a big agent who's seeing a lot more than I'm seeing?
Access to completely different jobs.
Access to,
different pay grades.
Yeah, so they're getting much more bang for their buck, as it were, than I'm getting.
Do you have different agents? Like, have you got a theatrical agent and a film agent or an advert agent?
At the moment, I have one agent doing everything. God help them.
Which agency is that? Can you say?
I better not go into it.
Okay, right, right, so FrightFest, what's the films? What's the 2 films?
I'm in Derelict, which is Jonathan Zaurin's masterpiece. He's amazing. He's a great visionary director with... It's honestly, it's visually stunning, and he's got a great eye for detail. He knows how to paint with light, stunning performances. Like genuinely, it's really, really good, and I'm really, really proud of it. And also I love Jonathan very much.
Where was it filmed?
Hereford.
Oh, okay.
And it's about a girl. Her father was murdered, and then the man who killed her father is released from prison, and she decides to go after him herself.
Oh, vigilante.
Yeah,
Lovely.
but it's quite dark, and it's not sort of not for the faint of heart. But it's a beautiful, like, it's so good, and he deserves big things from it.
And what's the other film?
I'm also in Bogeyville, which is Sean Cronin, who is again another amazing actor, director, voice on the indie film scene. It's a vampire movie set around an American trailer park, which turns out to be hiding a group of vampires. So again, it's quite dark, but it's it's fun and it's gory, and it's kind of,
I saw some pictures. It looks amazing.
They're both horror, but they're both very different facets, different types of horror. So it kind of depends what you're into.
Is that where you've got the prosthetics and the teeth? And yeah, no, it looks great.
What was the film that came out recently, the Ballet, the little girl who's a vampire? You see it? You must have seen the advert for it.
Little girl vampire?
Yeah, she's doing ballet in the advert. Do you remember, what was the name of that?
Google team.
Oh God, I can't remember. I just saw it. It's actually quite good because it's there's a lot of twists in it. So the little girl that you think like she's the victim, she ends up turning to like the
she's the perpetrator.
Yeah, but then they do that, then they go, oh no, this and that.
Oh,
and
right.
Go, oh, hang on, I wasn't expecting that, because you think, oh, it's one of those trailers, I've seen it all now.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I wish I remember the name of it.
Definitely sound like a bit of a movie buff. You know a lot of films.
Oh, it's a long story why I started going to cinemas recently, but I had about 10 years I saw nothing.
New date, hey?
No, it's a long story. But what dates are they playing? Do you know?
The 25th, which is Sunday, I believe.
And both films are on the same day, if not the same hour.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Same couple of hours.
So I'm going to be busy on Sunday, but then they'll go out, probably do more festivals, and then get a release, hopefully.
Right.
People can see that.
Fantastic.
Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on
Thank
Sunday.
you for having me.
Yeah,
no
thank you
problem.
for coming.
And we'll be keeping an eye on your career. When you say you're from you're Ealing?
I'm in Ealing.
Oh, you're in London. Okay. All right. Listen. Thank you very much. That was lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on, and we'll see you next week.